In the bustling galactic hub of the Universal Learning Center, beings from countless worlds congregated, each unique in form yet similar in their quest for knowledge. Among these myriad beings was Xylix, a bright-eyed student from a distant star system, known for its advanced technology and emotionally distant citizens. Xylix, with a body that shimmered like the surface of a star and eyes as deep as black holes, was an embodiment of his people's perfection in both intellect and composure. Today, Xylix attended a lecture that was unconventional even by the center's diverse standards, titled Historical Outcomes of Interspecies Conflicts. The lecturer, Professor Lorne, a respected historian with feathery tendrils and skin that changed color with his mood, was discussing the various ways species across the universe had resolved conflicts. As the lecture progressed, Professor Lorne highlighted Earth's history, particularly focusing on humanity's various engagements in wars. Humans. Lorne's skin flickered with a light blue hue, indicating intrigue, are an interesting case. They've waged war as much as they've brokered peace. A species of paradoxes, really. The class listened intently, absorbing every fact with an academic thirst. However, it was when Professor Lorne touched upon the concept of mercy in human warfare that Xylix found himself puzzled, a feeling that was quite foreign to him. "Consider this," Lorne continued, his color shifting to a contemplative green. "In several instances throughout their history, humans have avoided further conflict, opting instead for what they call mercy, even when technologically and strategically advantageous positions would allow them to crush their opponents. They have often chosen restraint." Xylix's hand shot up, an action that surprised even him, as participation was not his usual approach. The class turned to him, their eyes a mixture of curiosity and surprise. "Yes, Xylix?" Professor Lorne acknowledged his query. "If I may, Professor," Xylix began, his tone as smooth and emotionless as ever. "How is it logical for humans to avoid war out of something as abstract as mercy? Does this not put them at a strategic disadvantage? Why would a species choose a less advantageous route in conflict scenarios?" The room hummed with whispered speculations as Xylix's question resonated with others who shared his confusion. Professor Lorne's skin rippled with a vibrant orange, a sign of deep contemplation. "A fascinating question, Xylix. Indeed, from a purely strategic standpoint, mercy can seem like a weakness. However, humans often factor in moral and ethical implications in their decision-making processes. They are, surprisingly to many, highly emotional beings, and this influences their actions significantly, even in matters of war." "But isn't such an approach inefficient?" Xylix pressed, genuinely intrigued by the irrationality he perceived. Lorne smiled, a human gesture he had adopted during his years of teaching. "Inefficiency, Xylix, can sometimes lead to greater stability. By showing mercy, humans often create opportunities for reconciliation and future alliances. It is a long-term investment in peace rather than a short-term tactical gain." The discussion that followed was spirited and diverse, with points of view spanning the spectrum of logic and emotion. Xylix listened, his mind racing through data and historical precedents, trying to align this new, illogical piece of human behavior with his understanding of strategic conflict resolution. As the lecture ended and the students filed out, Xylix lingered, his thoughts deep and swirling. For the first time, his perfect logical mind grappled with the complex interplay of reason and emotion, and how, perhaps, understanding this balance could be the key to understanding not just humanity, but the broader universe itself. He knew this was just the beginning of his inquiry, and as he stepped out into the bustling corridors of the Universal Learning Center, he felt an unusual sensation tingling through his circuits, a spark of what humans might call curiosity. The next day found Xylix arriving early to the lecture hall, his thoughts still tangled in the complexities of human mercy. As he settled into his usual spot, he noticed a small group of students gathered around a holographic display of Earth. They were animatedly discussing the recent lecture, their voices a blend of confusion and fascination. "Mercy must be a tactical error, yet it's celebrated?" One student, a reptilian grown, hissed skeptically. Another, an ethereal being made of light waves named Siri, flickered softly. "Not an error, a choice. Humans often choose paths driven by emotion. It's, what's the word? Endearing. Xylix listened, absorbing every word. It was clear he wasn't the only one struggling with the concept. As the bell chimed, signaling the start of the lecture, the group reluctantly dispersed, taking their seats as Professor Lorne prepared to delve deeper into human history. Today's topic was human empathy and its role in conflict resolution. Lorne began by illustrating incidents where empathy led to unexpected victories, both morally and strategically. Empathy, he explained, allows humans to understand and share the feelings of others, which can lead to more comprehensive peace treaties. Xylix was perplexed. The idea that understanding emotions could be as strategically valuable as understanding weaponry seemed counterintuitive, yet the historical examples were compelling. Empathy had enabled humans to end conflicts more quickly and with fewer casualties, paving the way for durable alliances. During the class, a group project was announced. Students were to simulate a conflict resolution scenario involving multiple alien species, with the goal of achieving peace through understanding and negotiation. Xylix found himself grouped with Siri and a robust insectoid named Zorax. Their assignment was a simulation involving a territorial dispute between 3 different planetary systems. Each student was to represent a species, with Xylix taking on the role of a human diplomat. It was a challenging perspective for him, but he was determined to understand the human way. As the simulation commenced, Xylix tried to channel what he had learned about humans. He spoke of peace, shared prosperity, and even tried to express what he understood of human emotions. Siri, representing her species of light beings, was naturally empathetic, and Zorax, though initially aggressive, slowly began to see the benefits of negotiation over conflict. The project was a revelation to Xylix. He found himself considering not just the strategic benefits of empathy, but the intrinsic value of understanding others. The resolution of their simulated conflict was markedly different from what would have occurred had they used traditional tactics. Post-simulation, the group gathered to discuss the outcomes. "I see now," Xylix admitted, still somewhat bewildered, "that empathy can be a kind of weapon, one that disarms conflict without destruction." Siri shimmered brightly, pleased. "Exactly. It's about finding a resolution that benefits all, not just winning a battle." Zorax clicked his mandibles in agreement, a sign of deep contemplation in his culture. "It's strange but effective. I wouldn't have believed it if I hadn't experienced it in the simulation." As the session ended, Xylix felt his understanding of humans deepen. They were indeed a complex species, their strategies woven with threads of emotion and logic in equal measure. Perhaps, he thought, there was more to learn from humanity's approach to conflict than he had ever imagined possible. The following weeks at the Universal Learning Center saw Xylix immersed in human studies, his fascination growing as he uncovered layers of human behavior that transcended logic and ventured into the realms of emotion and moral philosophy. His discussions with Siri and Zorax evolved into regular study sessions, where they explored various earthly concepts and compared them to their own cultures. It was during one of these sessions that the announcement for the annual interstellar debates was made. This year's topic was particularly provocative. Is mercy a strategic error in interspecies conflict? The debates were a prestigious event, drawing participants from across the galaxy to argue their points in front of a panel of esteemed judges. Encouraged by Professor Lorne, Xylix decided to participate, representing the viewpoint that mercy, as exhibited by humans, was not a strategic error, but a complex strategy that could yield long-term benefits. His decision to engage in the debate was not just an academic challenge, but a personal quest to test his new understanding against the galaxy's best minds. The preparation was intense. Xylix spent hours in the simulation rooms, rehearsing his arguments and engaging in mock debates with Siri and Zorax. He studied historical data, pulling evidence of human conflicts where mercy had led to peace and prosperity. Siri contributed insights into the emotional and psychological impacts of mercy, while Zorax provided a counterbalance, critiquing Xylix's arguments to strengthen them. As the day of the debate approached, Xylix felt a mix of anticipation and nervousness. The event was held in the grand auditorium, filled with students, scholars and diplomats from various planets. The air was charged with a palpable excitement as beings of all forms took their seats, their whispers echoing through the vast chamber. Xylix was up against a renowned debater from the warlike Krath Empire, whose stance was firmly against mercy and conflict. The Krath, named Vorin, was a formidable opponent, with a reputation for sharp logic and ruthless argumentation. The debate commenced with Vorin's powerful opening statement, outlining historical instances where mercy had been exploited by the weaker parties, leading to renewed conflicts and betrayals. "Mercy," Vorin concluded, his voice booming across the auditorium, "is a weakness that no advanced civilization can afford." Xylix took the stage, his circuits glowing subtly under the auditorium lights. He began by acknowledging the points made by Vorin, but quickly pivoted to the broader, more nuanced perspective. "Consider the Earth's world wars," Xylix argued. In the aftermath, the victors chose to rebuild their former adversaries rather than punish them indefinitely, leading to decades of peace and mutual prosperity. He spoke of the psychological impact of mercy, how it could transform enmity into alliance and fear into respect. Xylix used examples from Earth's history, like the Marshall Plan and the Treaty of Versailles, to illustrate his points, emphasizing how these acts of mercy had reshaped geopolitical landscapes. The audience listened, rapt, as Xylix deftly wove together logic, historical precedent, and emotional intelligence into a compelling argument for the strategic value of mercy. As the judges deliberated, the auditorium buzzed with discussions. When the results were announced, Xylix had won the debate. The victory was not just a personal triumph, but a moment of validation for his journey into the complexity of human behavior. In the aftermath, as accolades were bestowed and congratulations offered, Xylix found himself more connected to his peers from diverse worlds than ever before. The debate had not only showcased his growth, but had also ignited a broader dialogue about the role of emotions in strategic thinking across the galaxy. In the wake of the debate, Xylix's academic reputation soared. His exploration into human empathy and mercy had sparked interest not only among his peers, but also among seasoned diplomats and strategists who attended the event. The concept of integrating human-like emotional intelligence into interstellar diplomacy was now a hot topic of discussion across the galaxy. The victory had profound effects on Xylix personally. He found himself invited to various panels and symposiums, where he shared his insights and explored further the applications of human emotional concepts in resolving conflicts. His once clear-cut, logic-driven worldview was now enriched with layers of empathy and understanding, drawing him closer to his classmates and even his distant family back home. Amidst these academic pursuits, Xylix maintained his close connection with Siri and Zorax. Together, they delved deeper into studies of Earth, discovering not just its history of conflicts, but also its rich traditions of art, literature, and philosophy. These studies often took place in the university's lush gardens, under the light of distant stars, where ideas flowed as freely as the streams that wound through the greenery. One evening, while discussing Earth's Renaissance, a period of profound artistic and cultural rebirth, Siri posed a question that caught Xylix off guard. "Do you think," she flickered thoughtfully, "that such a rebirth is possible for us? Can these human concepts inspire a renaissance in our own cultures?" Xylix considered this. "Perhaps we are already on the brink of such a transformation. This blending of our logical roots with newly appreciated emotional depths could lead to a renaissance of thought in our own worlds." Zorax, ever the pragmatist, clacked his mandibles. "It's an intriguing notion. Integrating human emotional insights could revolutionize our approaches to everything from governance to science." Their discussions often lasted late into the night, each session ending with more questions than answers, a testament to their growing intellectual curiosity. Xylix found these exchanges not only intellectually stimulating but also deeply fulfilling, reinforcing his belief in the value of diverse perspectives. As the academic year progressed, Xylix decided to undertake a research project, aiming to formalize his studies into a comprehensive analysis of human emotional influence on galactic diplomacy. He worked closely with Professor Lorne, who provided guidance and access to extensive archives of human history and cultural studies. For his research, Szilax focused on key historical moments where human leaders had chosen empathy over enmity, mercy over vengeance. He analyzed speeches, treaties, and diplomatic exchanges, drawing parallels to similar situations in galactic history that had not benefited from such an approach. The culmination of his research was a presentation at the annual Galactic Knowledge Symposium, held on a space station orbiting a neutral planet, where scholars from across the universe gathered. Szilax presented his findings, showcasing detailed scenarios where human-inspired empathy could have altered the outcomes of several well-known interstellar conflicts. The response was overwhelmingly positive. Scholars from various species approached Szilax afterward, expressing interest in incorporating his findings into their own diplomatic training programs. Some even suggested adaptations of Earth's United Nations model to better suit the complex political landscape of the galaxy. As Szilax stood before the starlit backdrop of the symposium hall, fielding questions and engaging in spirited debates, he felt a profound connection to the galaxy around him. His journey into the depths of human emotion had not only transformed his own perspectives, but had begun to influence the broader galactic discourse, challenging and changing age-old doctrines of cold logic in the face of conflict. As the symposium concluded, the implications of Szilax's research continued to ripple across academic and diplomatic circles. The concept of incorporating human-like empathy into diplomatic strategies was gaining traction, challenging the traditional paradigms of many civilizations within the galaxy. Back at the university, Szilax, Siri, and Zorax were invited to form part of an experimental diplomatic program aimed at testing these new strategies in real-world scenarios. The program, dubbed the Empathy Initiative, was to be a collaborative effort involving multiple species, each contributing their own insights and experiences to create a new framework for conflict resolution. The trio spent months preparing for their first mission, which involved a simmering dispute on the border of the Andraxian Commonwealth and the Nebulon Hive. Historically, these two powers had clashed over resource-rich territories, with negotiations often breaking down into hostilities. The Empathy Initiative aimed to change this pattern by approaching the conflict with a new perspective, focusing on mutual understanding and shared benefits rather than competitive dominance. Upon arriving at the negotiation site, a neutral space station orbiting a deserted moon, Szilax felt the weight of expectation heavy on his shoulders. He and his team were to facilitate discussions, employing the human concepts of empathy and mutual respect that he had studied so intensely. The initial meetings were tense, with representatives from both the Commonwealth and the Hive rigidly sticking to their scripted demands. Szilax and his team worked meticulously, encouraging each side to express not only their demands, but their fears and hopes regarding the conflict. Gradually, the atmosphere began to change. Representatives started to share personal stories of how the conflict had affected their communities, which allowed each side to see the other not as faceless adversaries, but as fellow beings with similar struggles and aspirations. Szilax introduced historical human examples where empathy had led to lasting peace, drawing parallels to the current situation. He proposed innovative solutions that had worked on Earth, such as joint economic ventures and cultural exchange programs, which could be adapted to meet the needs of both the Commonwealth and the Hive. The negotiations stretched over several weeks, with Szilax and his team mediating difficult discussions and helping to bridge the gap between deeply entrenched positions. The turning point came when a draft treaty was proposed, incorporating the principles of shared resources and joint guardianship of disputed territories. As the treaty was signed, the sense of achievement was palpable. The Empathy Initiative had successfully navigated through what many had expected to end in stalemate or open conflict. News of the successful negotiation spread quickly, bolstering the case for empathy-based diplomacy. The success of the mission prompted the university to expand the Empathy Initiative, and Szilax, Siri, and Zorax became key figures in this burgeoning field. They traveled to different parts of the galaxy, training new diplomats and spreading the word about their innovative approach to resolving conflicts. Throughout these missions, Szilax documented their experiences, compiling case studies and developing a formal curriculum for what he now called Empathic diplomacy. His work culminated in a series of lectures and publications that became essential reading for upcoming diplomats across the galaxy. As more and more species began to adopt these new methods, the landscape of interstellar diplomacy was irrevocably transformed. Conflicts that would have once led to prolonged wars were now more often resolved at the negotiation table, with empathy and understanding as the guiding principles. Xylix, once a student perplexed by the notion of human mercy, had become a pioneer of a diplomatic revolution, proving that even the most deeply rooted interstellar conflicts could find resolution through the power of understanding and shared human values. The impact of the Empathy Initiative under Xylix's leadership continued to resonate throughout the galaxy, reaching far beyond the academic and diplomatic communities. It sparked a cultural movement, influencing art, literature, and public discourse across countless worlds, reshaping how species viewed each other and the concept of conflict itself. In the years following the successful implementation of empathic diplomacy, Xylix was honored with numerous awards and accolades. Yet the recognition he cherished most was the real-world applications of his work, the peaceful resolutions, and the collaborative projects that flourished in places once marked by strife and suspicion. One significant testament to the initiative's success was the establishment of the Galactic Council of Peace, a body comprising representatives from various civilizations, dedicated to maintaining and promoting peace through empathy and mutual understanding. Xylix was asked to serve as one of its first chairpersons, a role he accepted with a sense of duty and honor. Under his guidance, the Council developed several key programs, including the Intercultural Exchange Program, which facilitated visits between young citizens of different worlds to learn about each other's cultures firsthand. This program was particularly successful in dismantling prejudices and building a foundation of trust and friendship among the youth of the galaxy. Meanwhile, Ciri and Zorax continued to champion empathic diplomacy in their respective fields. Ciri took her experience back to her people, transforming their approach to interstellar relations, which had traditionally been reclusive and cautious. Zorax applied the principles to reform his own society's militant structures, leading to a significant decrease in internal conflicts and an increase in economic and social development. The trio occasionally reunited at conferences and seminars, where they shared their ongoing work and inspired new generations of diplomats and peace builders. During one such reunion, held on the anniversary of the Empathy Initiative's first successful negotiation, Xylix reflected on the journey that had started with a simple question in a classroom. As he addressed a gathering of current and aspiring diplomats, Xylix emphasized the transformative power of understanding and compassion. We have seen that empathy can indeed be a powerful tool in diplomacy. It is not merely about avoiding conflict, but about forging a path toward a shared future, he said, his voice resonant with passion and experience. The legacy of Xylix's work extended into the educational systems of many worlds. Curricula were revised to include studies on empathy and its role in leadership and conflict resolution, ensuring that the lessons learned from the Empathy Initiative would perpetuate through future generations. Years later, an aged Xylix decided to pen his memoirs, titled Reflections Across the Stars, A Diplomat's Journey to Empathy. The book was a detailed account of his experiences and the lessons he learned from humanity and beyond. It became a bestseller, widely read not just by students and scholars, but by anyone interested in the profound impact empathy can have on the galaxy. In the twilight of his career, Xylix often visited the university's gardens, where he had spent countless hours debating and learning with his friends. Sitting on a bench under the stars, he watched new students navigate their paths, hopeful and curious, just as he had been. In these moments, he felt a deep connection to the ongoing cycle of learning and teaching, a cycle that he had helped shape with his dedication to understanding the complex tapestry of emotions and motives that drive the universe. As peace continued to flourish and the principles of empathic diplomacy became a cornerstone of interstellar relations, Xylix's legacy was cemented not just as a pioneer in his field, but as a visionary who saw the value of human emotions in a universe vast and diverse. His work reminded all that in the grand cosmos, the most powerful force was often the quiet understanding shared between sentient beings.